You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce During. I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic, and this is where we take a closer look at the stories that we're covering in the Chicago Catholic newspaper for the Archdiocese. And today we're talking to two parishioners from St. Josephine Bakhita Parish down on South Shore, who the parish is doing this really unique program where they're training youth to be leaders in nonviolence as a way to bring an alternative to combat the issue of violence in their community. So today we have Elfriede Wedam and Rawls. Both of them are university professors and lots of accolades after their names and have extensive work in the nonviolence community. And so, ladies, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation, Joyce.
Sure. So, Elfriede, do you want to start and just kind of explain the program? I mean, it's very in-depth and kind of like what you're planning on doing with it.
Thank you. Our program is based on a community-developed program against violence, a indigenously created and developed for the African-American community, particularly initially, but now applies to all participants. And it began a number of years back with the public school system. We now apply it to community folks, we apply it to church groups, and our current program is to apply nonviolence principles and practices to the children who attend St. Philip Neri School. But not just the children, also the teachers and the parents, because violence is both an individual problem and a social problem. And as an individual, all of us can learn to behave differently in the context of America, where violence is usually the go-to solution for problems that occur. And so this is a program that attempts to get at the root of cultural change in our society through learning techniques to use nonviolent methods to counteract the challenges that we all face. And in South Shore, we have an additional level of challenges. So our children and our parents and teachers are being addressed with this program.
But so So what I want to back up. The story that we did in the newspaper was the preliminary pilot that you got funds for. So it wasn't specifically just Philip Neri kids, right? You pulled from the area schools. And then now, right, you're advancing it to St. Philip Neri, like school-wide. Right. Yeah, that's super cool. Andrea, how would you like to explain, if you could, not if you could, you can, obviously, because you're way deep in this, sorry. The whole, where it's rooted in the civil rights movement, that was fascinating to me. And then you also mentioned to me when we were doing the interview that through the program, it's also a bit of a history lesson for the youth because they might not know as much about the civil rights movement as maybe they should. Or maybe we all should. Go
one
ahead.
Of the most interesting features of the program, we started talking about nonviolence and its origination with the Dr. Martin Luther King movement with Reverend Bevel and Reverend Jim Lawson, Reverend Lawson had been trained under Mahatma Gandhi in the principles of nonviolence and brought those trainings back to begin to address the issues of the civil rights movements in the mid-50s and early 60s. And what we noticed is, as we began to show the film and talk about how the organization came to be and what the principles of nonviolence were, the young people were absolutely fascinated because they had heard of Dr. King, but they didn't understand what he actually stood for. They had not heard as much of some of the other operators and statisticians that were around him that made the movement possible, and especially the participation of the young people at one point in the march. We found that the parents became as engaged as the young people, and we found that the community members would come in and would be totally engaged so we attracted more than just the young people that we started with. And then we learned that this should be a component of leadership. We reached out to the Knights of Peter Claver, Ladies Auxiliary, and the junior Knights and junior daughters to get them to use this as a part of the leadership skills that the young people could put on their resumes as they move forward and matriculated through school.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. So you're getting them involved too, specifically, the young. That's exciting. So there are some principles to nonviolence, right? So am I right? There's like so many pillars. Why don't you share those with us? Because I think sometimes this becomes like so intangible to some people like me who don't understand how this like works in a practical level. But I saw it when I was at this thing. Go ahead.
On a practical level, you're absolutely right. One of the things that the trainer that is our co-participant in this program, Philip Bradley, does in introducing the educational component of this training is to ask, do you know what Alcoholics Anonymous is? Everybody says yes. Do you know how many steps? Yes, there's 12 steps. Then he asks, do you know how many steps it is to become nonviolent? Of course, nobody does. The civil rights movement developed an 8-step platform that is a logic model that allows people to learn the ways in which nonviolence can become part of your life. And it's a training like other kinds of training. You don't fall out of bed in the morning knowing how to be nonviolent, knowing how to respond to troublesome issues around you. You have to learn that. We all have to learn that. It's all part of the becoming a human being. So there are 8 steps, and the very first step is observation. We have to see what's around us. And that is a scientific principle as well. If you want to understand and advance scientific issues, questions about scientific problems, first thing you do is you observe the issue at hand in detail and without bias. The second step is to ask questions and to start developing your own skills in understanding what's going on, what's below the surface here, what is not obvious here. And one of the examples that I like to use when I teach the scientific method in my class is how important it is to realize that just because we're all looking at the same problem doesn't mean we all see it accurately. So that's something that we have to be trained to do. So there's a series of steps that end in reconciliation, because that's the purpose of nonviolence. It's not to punish people. It's not to ostracize people, to marginalize people, to have revenge on people. The purpose is to reconcile with people. But in order to do so, you really do have to understand that it is a process.
Well, I really think after, talking to you guys and talking to Philip Bradley, that it's important to have it in communities that have a lot of, that see a lot of violence. And then there's the systematic generational violence. But boy, I really could see it anywhere. I'm sitting there thinking when he was talking and applying it to parts of my life or situations that I've encountered, maybe in the office or with friends or with other things and I think especially it's timely now. It seems like we're more, I don't know, angry or whatever since the pandemic. And so it does seem to have some elements that could be, definitely used far reaching, right? But I know that the focus is on the kids at St. Philip Neri. We have about 5 minutes left. Trying to figure out if we should take a break because what I want to do is I want to talk about the plans for going forward and how you plan to integrate it all into the school life at St. Philip Neri, because that's like a whole big new thing. And then also, I want you to share your dream down the road for turning one of the churches that was closed but not decommissioned yet through Renew My Church into this peace center for the community, which I think is so cool. I think I get so excited now that we're sort of in, a lot of the parishes are in this new building the new reality phase. Some people are getting creative in what they're using with what's left now that the merger. So we might as well just take a break real fast. My name is Joyce During. I'm the editor of Chicago Catholic. This is Beyond the Headlines, and we will be right back in a few minutes. Don't go away.
Catholic Charities' Refugee Resettlement Program has been especially busy this year, assisting individuals and families who have fled dangerous situations in their homeland, including Afghanistan and the Ukraine. The Refugee Resettlement Team helps with everything they need to start to rebuild their lives in a new country, including housing, employment, clothing, food, English classes, and referrals for legal and immigration services. The refugees are tremendously grateful for the compassion and practical help they're receiving, and they're giving back and helping each other plan for a brighter, safer future. Volunteer opportunities are currently available for those who would like to be family mentors and tutors so children and adults can practice English. To learn more about these rewarding opportunities, call 312-655-7096. That's 312-655-7096.
This is year 44 for me teaching. When I started here, there were teachers here that had taught me when I was a student. Now I'm the old person. Right now, I teach junior high math. I love when kids find what I'm teaching to be fun and they get it. I see that light bulb go off and it's a thrill. People are always amazed. What? You're here for 44 years? It's hard for me to believe, frankly. I love what I do. Every summer I think, oh, I miss the classroom. Even on the weekends, I think I can't wait to get back on Monday and teach those quadratic equations.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
Did you know that Catholic Charities accepts car donations? If you're ready to free up space in your garage and put a stop to all those expenses that go along with owning a car, we will gratefully accept your donation, whether the car is running or not. You choose a pickup time that is convenient for you, and we will make the donation as easy as possible, free of charge. You'll receive a charitable donation receipt as well. We accept all types of vehicles nationwide, and you will know that your donation is made to Catholic Charities, an agency you can trust. To learn more about donating your car, call 877-786-4483. That's 877-786-4483. Thank you.
I am a seminarian.
The church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, Make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce During. I'm editor of Chicago Catholic newspaper for the Archdiocese. Before we go back to our guests, I just want to plug the newspaper for a minute. You can visit us at chicagocatholic.com. We come out about every 2 weeks. A subscription is $30 a year and helps support our ministry. You can also sign up for our free e-newsletter, which comes out about 3 times a week, and follow us on social media. Right now, we've got Cardinal Supich has been writing a series of articles about the Eucharist that's related to the National Eucharistic Revival that's going on right now throughout the United States. We also have a story about, it's been 20 years since the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops adopted the Charter for Protection of Children and Youth, and all of the controls and checks that came in through that. So we take a look at that. And it's also been 30 years since the Archdiocese of Chicago implemented its own form. We were really on the cusp of protecting children and minors from clergy sexual abuse. So please check us out, chicagocatholic.com. And so today we're talking to Elfriede Wedam and Andre Rawls, whose son is famous in her own right. He's the principal of Leo High School on the south side and does a phenomenal job there. But they've developed this really wonderful training, anti-violence training for youth in the South Shore community. So, Andre, would you explain to us that, like, you got another grant and what you're expecting to do with this one and throughout the St. Philip Neri School?
Well, one of the things we looked at is in the last grant, it was designed for a summer program or after-school program, and it didn't incorporate the school in such a way that it involved the young people and their parents as well as faculty. So we spoke with our wonderful principal, Ms. Diane Asbury, and we came up with a plan to do sessions with the parents, the faculty, and the children and let them understand better the principles of nonviolence. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is when you work from a perspective of nonviolence, it's an individual choice. And so you want to get there and not only train the community, but help individuals understand that they can make choices to be in cultures that are not violent. And so we're going to be working over the next year. We just received funds for that portion of this, and we're hoping to keep going. We're hoping to go forward and further. We're hoping to change the dialogue and change what's going on in the community by taking one small step at a time. It's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we're about on our second bite at this point.
That's wonderful. And if there's any two folks who can do this, I totally believe in the two of you with all of your history and the passion that you have for your community and for this issue. And so I kind of plugged it before, but tell us, our listeners, about your dream for it's Our Lady of Peace Church. Yes, Our Lady of Peace Church.
Yes, this is something that we have had in mind for a while, and yet it does take putting a lot of pieces together, Joyce, as you know, any big dream requires. One of the things that we had to learn as a committee is how significant the issue of violence is as a public health problem, because we're committed to understanding it not as a policing problem, but rather as a mental health and a public health problem, because we believe that is the only way to address it effectively. We can't police our way out of these kinds of social problems. And beyond that, when the police show up, it's already after the fact. It's already the horse is out of the barn
Right,
at that
yeah.
point. It's not a preventive measure. So our commitment is to create preventive measures, fundamental, rooted in our own individual personal commitment, and then a commitment that we can then spread to a family, neighbors, our community, our churches. So the center that we have been dreaming about is a center that should incorporate a whole range of services. The Centers for Disease Control says that in order to address violence as a public health issue, we need multi-sector and multi-institutional actors participating. We need a whole range of wraparound services that people need in order to make this kind of transformation in their lives. It's not a one-off event.
Right.
It's not just changing one small thing about the way that you think. It's changing your whole outlook towards others. And so we begin with the individual, but then we address our partners. We address our children, our families. We address the neighborhood in which we live. We address problematic issues out in the neighborhood, such as gang violence, for example. And as committed to Catholic social teaching, we also apply this to understanding the roots of war and the ultimate roots of destruction, genocide. So it is a whole new way of understanding how to act in the world in order to create the kind of world that we want to live in. So Our Lady of Peace is a wonderful facility with many opportunities, options, a space that can incorporate a variety of different services, even things like parking, which is important in the city. So our dream is to incorporate a wide variety of services, and with more actors coming together to be an anchor for change in the culture of violence in South Shore.
Well, and Philip Bradley said to me about it's changing. You don't have to change every single person in the community. You change a few, they change a few, they change it. Like it's like this ripple effect. Andre, can you talk a little bit about that? How that just kind of keeps growing and growing?
Well, it's the exponential factor of change. And that is that when you start with a small group of people and you convince them and get them to believe in what they're doing from an internal place in their minds, then they will bring, just as everything else proliferates. The gangs proliferate because someone in a gang gets someone else. The same thing can happen on the positive side of the equation, that we can start with a few people and we can expand to a larger community as we move forward. I think that is understanding the principles of nonviolence, understanding that it's a system, understanding that there is a way that it works, helps people begin to see that small steps lead to larger steps and larger improvements. So we're very excited about having a peace center at Our Lady of Peace. It may be years down the road, but it's like anything else. You keep working toward it, and one day we'll look and we'll be standing there going, we did it. And we're looking forward to that day.
Amen. Do either of you have any special moment in particular from this recent training with the youth that you want to share that is kind of an example of the effect it can have?
Well, some of our younger students who participated in the program were very articulate about what they heard. So it did surprise us a little bit that a seventh grader can actually stand up and explain how she can influence her peers and how she can enthusiastically present that this is a way to solve our problems. This is how we can de-escalate situations, that we share in ordinary, everyday encounters with our friends and our family. And so it did take me aback. You would think that, you might think that, oh, these are the civil rights principles that adults were the leaders in. No, in fact, children were among the leaders in the civil rights movement, and they continue to be a terrific source of energy and insight for us, old folks.
Yeah. The children were amazing. I think I'd have to say that. The young people were amazing. The fact that they were attentive, the fact that they were articulate, and they really internalized the ideas.
That's wonderful to hear. Yeah, it's always inspiring to be among the youth when they get excited, isn't it? So
Yes,
if people want to help, should they reach out to you guys through the parish, or do you need volunteers or partners, parish partners?
No, we always need volunteers. Yes, I would suggest that reaching St. Philip Neri.
Through the school. That makes sense. Yeah.
Well, it's possible to reach us through the school, St. Philip Neri, but the parish, St. Josephine Bakhita, probably would also be a very good source for contacting us. Do we have the telephone number? I think it's 773. Sorry, I don't have it at the top of my head.
I'm sorry. I have it right here. I'll give it. The parish phone number for St. Josephine Bakhita is area code 773-363-1700.
Awesome. And you can check their website too. Bakhita is Bakhita. So and Josephine, it's one of our brand new, and look into St. Josephine Bakhita. She's got a tremendous story in and of herself. All right. Well, ladies, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and for the wonderful work that you're doing on behalf of peace in the South Shore community and beyond. And I'm grateful to have you on. And just one more shout out to the newspaper. If you check us out at ChicagoCatholic.com, you can sign up for our free newsletter, check out our stories, follow what the Cardinal's saying, what the Pope's saying, and follow us on social media. And again, my name is Joyce During. I'm the editor of the Chicago Catholic, and this is Beyond the Headlines. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.